Beautiful. Welcome, guys, and thank you for listening. Today, I am here with Tamara Read, who is the founding director of Beauti Industri. So, Tamara has been in the industry for 13 years now and still going quite strong. Little fun fact is that Tamara actually wanted to be a dancer and missed the cutoff and then ended up studying a diploma in resort management, specializing in day spas. And from there, you've been like a really fantastic mentor and advocate for women in the beauty industry. So thank you for joining me, and I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. I'm so excited to be here and having a chat with you today.
Thank you. So would you like to tell us a bit about your backstory? How did it
all Yeah, so exactly as you said, I thought I was going to be a dancer. I had danced for 10 years. I was doing over 12 classes a week. I went up to my year 12 kind of coordinator careers person and said, okay, so how do I apply to get into the uni course, the vet courses? And she was like, oh, let me have a look for you, and typed away on her computer, and she goes, oh, they were actually held yesterday, so you can't be a dancer anymore. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. And so I'm quite a flexible person, even those 13 years ago. And I kind of sat in the common room and I was looking around, and people were looking through the career book, and one saying, I'm going to be an administrator for my dad's company, and the other one said I'm going to be a medical receptionist. And not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with those jobs, but I kind of had this moment where I was like, I can't just sit here and stay here. I need to move. I need to get out. Like, I had a real urge. Yeah. I just picked up the book myself, and I was flipping on through, and one of my best friends at the time said, oh my God, there's a diploma of resort management, and you can specialize in ski, spa, or dive, or boating, and you should have a look at the spa. And I was like, that's so random. I'd never been to a spa in my life before. I didn't know what it was. I kind of looked a little bit more into it, and I saw that it was 3 days learning business and then 2 days learning beauty therapy. And I went and I had my interview, which went fantastically. And the next day I was actually starting. So that's kind of how I got into the beauty industry.
Yeah, and now 13 years later, has it gone so fast?
In so many respects, it's gone so fast. I feel like I can transport myself back to sitting in that year 12 common room. But at the same time, there's been such a progression of things. I've almost done, and this is not to toot my own horn, or sound egotistic. I just get bored really easily. But I've done a lot of things in those 13 years. So it's gone fast but slow,
I think you have to be a bit flexible when you're in the industry, though. It's like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I was very close-minded when I was a therapist, and I thought, okay, the next position here is being manager. And then I was the manager, and then I kind of was like, oh, all right, well, what's the next thing? Do I have to open my own business? Before I realized, okay, you can actually go into education. And then when I got into education, I thought this was the end of the role. You're just going to be an educator forever. And then I was like, actually, no, why don't I try sales, And I think as therapists, we kind of limit ourselves to believing that we can just be a therapist, or we have to open a beauty salon, or whatever that looks like. But you can really just make your own job.
It's so true. It's so true. So you didn't really have a plan or see yourself at where you are now. You kind of just took it as it came and did what you felt like.
Yeah, I mean, the most funny thing, and I was filling out a form the other day, I don't know if I filled it out on your form or somebody else's, but when I was actually in, what age was it? It might have been in year 10 or year 9. There was this careers form, and you fill out 100 questions, and at the end it spits out and it tells you what you're going to be. Yeah. And so mine spat out at the end, a world religious leader. And I was like, what? I am not religious at all. And I'm just sitting here in year 10. What's that, 16 years old or something. And I was like, a world religious leader, this is so strange. And then just before I started Beauti Industri, I actually went to a psychic, and she said to me, you're going to be a world leader. And I was like, I've heard this before. This is weird. I was happy she didn't say the religious part, but I was like, what do you mean? And she said, Tamara, one day you're going to have thousands of people who watch what you do. And, you know, I sat there as this year kind of turned over from 2019 into 2020, and our numbers had ticked over and we'd got 10,000 people in our community and 60,000 on the podcast. And I thought, oh my gosh, these people were really right, you know, and not that I'm saying all psychics are right, but, you know, it's kind of funny how back then something in me was already saying you're going to be a leader of a community, you know, whereas I was kind of just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm 16 years old. I'm just trying to save my job at Baker's Delight, you know. So no, I never imagined I'd be here.
So it's just manifesting before you even realized what was happening.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hindsight's good like that, when you look back and you're like, wow, actually I can see how this all happened. But yeah, at the time you're just not sure what's happening.
Oh, no. I've had every single job ever. I mean, as I mentioned, Baker's Delight. I've been in telemarketing. I have worked at a music store. Goodness me, I've done everything. And I guess you've just got to go through and just trial whatever you possibly can, you know, and to some people it might seem aloof or unloyal, or disloyal rather, that's a word. But I needed to find what I loved, you know, and for me, I just don't stop until I find that. And I feel like now I found that. So I may, not that I'm going to stop, but I'm happy here.
Yeah. I definitely think you found your calling. So 60K following you on the podcast, and you've got 10,000, is that followers or in your membership program or?
Yeah, so the 10,000 is spread across our social pages, in the membership program, and in our Facebook group as well.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's a lot of people when you look at it as people instead of just numbers or followers, like I know a lot of people do. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you know, it's not lost on me that I'm very fortunate to have this community. Like, I love every single person who is in there. And it's also not lost on me that the level of responsibility I have to have this many people looking at me and watching me and saying, okay, should we stock this brand, or should I join this academy, or should I join this course? You know, now, because people trust me, because I've been doing this for the last 2 years, and they feel like I am a person who they can trust, for me, it means more so now than ever that I'm connecting with the right people along the way, so that I'm not just saying yes to everybody and then putting those people in front of the community that may not treat the community the way that I do, you know. And for me, that's the most important thing, is if you've got a platform or a course, for example, and you say, hey, Tamara, I want you to put this in front of your community. Now I do the course, I spend the money, I will use the product, I will sit in the training, you know, I will do all of that stuff to do the due diligence, so that I know what I'm putting in front of our community is real and it is good work.
And that's so important as well. Like, it shows like that you do care about, you know, your clients, and you do, you know, you care about their trust. Like, you obviously want to keep that and give them good value.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I learned a really big lesson last year in 2019, because I did, you know, at the start when you've got a small business, you do just want to say yes to everybody because you're ticking brand awareness, you're ticking exposure, you know, and so I was saying yes to everyone, and I had a few different circumstances where people came back to me and said, Tamara, I listened to this episode of the podcast and I signed into this program, and now I haven't heard from that person in 2 or 3 months. They've got my money. They won't refund it. I haven't got anything from the program. And now I'm coming back and blaming you. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay. And that was because I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't find out who that person was or their background or look into the program or anything like that. And, you know, now I really understand the responsibility of having a community. Like, it's good and well to say, we've got 10,000 people and 60,000 listens, but it's like, what does that actually mean? And it's a lot of responsibility.
Oh, it would be. Do you feel like a lot of pressure?
Yeah, I guess pressure is the right word, definitely. Coming into this year, and now I think I'll probably have this mantra for quite a while now. Instead of like a New Year's resolution, I like to just have one word that I can take throughout that year. And so my word this year was considered, and that's what I really want to do across everything, you know. So when a brand comes to me and says, we want to work with you, or an educator comes and says, I want you to talk about my online course or whatever that be, I sit with it now, and I know that I don't have to make a decision on the spot. You know, it's okay for me to sit in that. What does that look like? Are our brands aligned? You know, what do the values say? And then make a decision in the morning. And that for me, when I make that decision, because I've sat with it, I feel a lot less pressure. Whereas before, when people were coming to me saying, you've got to tell me now, it's do or die and da-da-da, then I was like, oh, that's a lot of pressure, you know. But now I know what I do say yes to is so considered that the pressure is less, if that makes sense.
It feels right. It feels like more aligned with what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That makes a huge difference. So there was something that just came to my head. I'm like, yeah, I need to ask that. And now it's just completely gone. So what about, you were saying that when you had this opportunity to open Beauti Industries, you were also working somewhere else and you were given an ultimatum to choose one or the other. So what made you go down this path over like having that secure opportunity?
Yeah, good question. And that's exactly what happened. You know, in the most black and white form, I basically was out shopping on a Sunday and got a text message saying, read your email. And in the email, it basically said, Beauti Industri is a conflict of interest for the role that you've got. And within the next 24 hours, we're going to decide whether you've got a job or not. You know, and it was pretty full on. That sent me into a spiral. I was like, drop the shopping. We've got to get home. I've got to read this email. But yeah, the ultimatum was basically do your job now and continue your job in a stable, very comfortable, cushy career and shut Beauti Industri down, or leave the job and keep going with your little business. And for those on the podcast, I'm doing little rabbit ears, quotation marks, because it's what everyone was telling me. You know, it's a little business. It's a small business. Are you sure you really want to risk your big career for this little business? And just prior to that, about 2 months prior, we'd actually launched our membership site, our Beauti Academy site, although it was named different. But and I had 100 paying people in the site, you know, so I sat there and I was like, Tamara, this is not only about you now, but you're going to restrict all these business owners to not work on the operations of their business and not develop personally, professionally with their teams, with their clients, if you don't continue to go on with this. So I went back and I said, you know, thank you so much for the offer, but actually I'm going to finish up. So within 24 hours, I had no job, and I was, kicking like a little duck underwater trying to build my brand.
Oh, it would have been such a scary moment. And you had only just moved to a new place as well. So it's not like you had any family or friends support. You're just in a complete new place. You didn't know anyone. And now you also don't have a job.
Yeah, it was the most crazy time. So my husband and I, we were in Melbourne. Well, he wasn't my husband quite yet, but a month later he would be. We were in Melbourne, and I said to the company, look, my husband's got a transfer for work up to Brisbane in Queensland. Can we move up there? And they said, yes. So we got to Queensland, and that happened within about a month, so about 30 days. And then I was out of a job. I was in a new state. I had no friends, no family here. Didn't know anyone, and I was supposed to get married in the next month. So I finished my job, went straight into startup of Beauti Industri, and got married a fortnight later. And here we are.
It just all it's strange how it just seems to all happen at once.
It's
just always the way. But sometimes I also feel like it's the universe being like, well, what do you want?
100%. Look, I think, looking back, because my job was so cushy, I loved it. the clients that I had loved me. You know, it was stable in terms of financial. I knew what I was doing. It was a very comfortable job. And so when I got this push, it was the perfect push because, to be completely honest, if I hadn't got that push, I don't know how much time or energy I would have put into Beauti Industri, because I was always focused 100% on my job, just about, you know, that extra 10% on beauty. But having that forced push made me go, right, well, there's no other excuse now. This has to work. It has to work because you're in a new state, you've got a husband, and you've got bills. So there's nothing you can do to sit and, you know, cry. You've got to make it work. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like sometimes we just need that, you know, that push to kind of make that decision to go, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And some of my friends and kind of like industry colleagues, they always laugh because they say, Tamara, you gave me the push that I needed, you know, like telling them to start a podcast or open the second location or whatever. And now I kind of think, oh, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? But they often thank me for it. So
I think it's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, I think I push people outside of their comfort zones, but they grow there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes you can't quite give yourself that push because you've got so much kind of almost fear and anxiety built up. But then you have someone from the outside, you know, being a cheerleader, and they're like, no, you can do this. Like, you know, let's get practical, take these steps, and you could definitely do this. And all of a sudden you feel like, you know what, I can actually do this.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, there are so many people out there who will tell you, you can't do it, it's not the right time, you don't have enough money, how are you going to do that, you're not smart enough, you know, whatever they tell you. So I feel like if I can be a little cheerleader and just help people realize, well, actually you can do it, stuff what those people think, just go and start today. Why not? You know, one cheerleader is better than no cheerleaders.
And I think that's amazing because, like I said, we have our own fears and doubts and we can be our own worst enemy. So then when you compile that with other people telling you that you can't do something, it just makes it so much harder.
Oh, yeah, you're 100% right. Like when I first started, I thought too, you know, they were telling me so much, your little business, da 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 da, you know, and then when I went into the business, I was like, oh, it is a little business, you know, and can I make it global or what can I do? And that really limited my thinking until, you know, I looked at the podcast or I looked at some of the stats on our website and saw that we were hitting different countries. And then I was like, oh, well, not so little anymore, you know. So sometimes,
feeling.
yeah, and it's nice to just kind of, when somebody tells you something like that, that puts a limiting belief on you, when you see that belief just not even come to fruition or it's not even true, if you can dispel that, that's where the magic happens, you know, because you're like, okay, I can do this.
And I think generally we do think of worst case scenarios, like the ultimate worst thing that could ever happen. And 9 times out of 10, it never happens. Even when something doesn't go to plan, it's generally not the worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's it. And do you know what? And I said this just at our Perth Beauty brunch the other day. We were talking about home businesses, and somebody said, "Oh, you know, I'm so scared that if I go into a clinic and I can't afford the rent and da da da, then what happens?" And I said, "Well, what happens is you shut down your business and you go back home, and you still got your clients, and that's the worst. You know, who cares? Who cares?
That bad."
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, who cares if the industry is looking at you going, oh, she had to shut her shop and go back home? Like, it doesn't matter, you know? And I think we've got to look at those worst case scenarios and go, okay, does it really matter? No, then just go for it.
And I think sometimes that is the biggest fear of, like, what is everybody else going to think? And it's trying to remind yourself that it doesn't matter. If you tried and then you had to go back and you tried again, like, it's okay to do that. At least you tried, you experienced, you've learned, you grow from it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, gosh, if I looked at the first website that I ever created, because I've created Beauti Industries' entire website. If I look at that very first website that I created 2 years ago now, or listened back to our first podcast episode or anything like that, like, you've got to start somewhere. And I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect right away. And there's no reality in that. You're not going to be perfect right away. And if you are, then perhaps you started too late, because you should be growing as you go.
That's so true. And I think you're right. I think now, with everything being so online and everyone around the world that can see you, everyone's like, no, I have to get it right and perfect the first time. But it's nearly impossible, especially when you're trying something new.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right.
So once you started Beauti Industry, in 3 months, you made more of a profit than working for your other job. Is that right?
Yeah, so the wage that I had at my other job in an annual capacity, I made within 3 months at Beauti Industri, which, again, you know, it dispels that myth when people were saying little business. I'm like, well, okay, I made this money. Maybe it's not little anymore, you know. So it wasn't really for me about the milestone of making the money. It was more so the mind shift that I had in myself to go, okay, you can actually do this. Like, this is giving you a green light to keep going.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I hope that people feel like really, you know, inspired by that, yeah, you may have just an idea at the moment, but that can come into fruition and, you know, be a big business one day.
Yeah, for sure. And even if you don't have the idea, like, my husband always laughs at me because so many times we've been together for 10 years this December, and so many times along the pathway I've said, okay, I'm going to open a product, or I'm going to open a store, I'm going to open my own day spa. And he's like, you are such a dory fish, like out of Nemo. You just get excited by all the shiny and glittery things. And all of those ideas came years before Beauti Industri did, you know, and Beauti Industri happened by accident. I just opened up a random Facebook group, put 15 of my closest industry friends in, and now we're at 3,000 people, you know. So sometimes as well, where you don't put your energy, if it's meant to happen, it will just happen. As cliche as I know that sounds, and for anyone who's not woo-woo and crystals, it just kind of happens.
Yeah, I totally believe in that kind of stuff. What about bullying in the industry? Have you ever had to, like, deal with anything like that?
Oh, so much. I think, you know, especially at the moment where we're going through this whole global crisis, people are messaging me, you know, a lot, saying, you know, I really appreciate you as a leader at the moment, and I'm looking towards you to kind of hear what you're saying and just keep updated. And a lot of people have been asking me about leadership during this time, and I've been kind of sitting in that and reflecting in it and thinking myself, like, how did I become the leader that I am now? And I think it was really just through having people who were not great leaders, you know, and seeing how they transacted and talked to other people and my colleagues and clients, and going, okay, well, I'm going to take this moment and never do that, and I'm going to do the opposite, and you know, kind of make sure that when I do it, it's right, and it comes from the heart. And yeah, I mean, the bullying aspect in that was absolutely awful, you know, and it really did a lot to my self-esteem. Like, I'm quite a strong person. I know my strengths. There's no grey with me. I'll always tell you how it is, you know, it's black and white, and that's about it. But when I was being bullied, you know, in certain roles, I didn't even realise that it was bullying, because it would be things like passive-aggressive remarks, or, you know, okay, you want a pay rise, but I'm going to make everyone else of your colleagues not get a pay rise just so you can, because you're so special. You know, little tiny words like that now I can look back and go, oh my gosh, that was bullying in its finest form. But when you're in that, you believe what they say, and you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't deserve this pay rise, or maybe I don't deserve whatever, you know, and it's so hard to see when you're in that situation. And I just think it's BS, to be honest. You know, we've got such a hard life being a woman and, you know, trying to juggle everything that we juggle and give to our clients and give to our family and our friends. Like, why are we making our life harder in a business sense as well? And it makes absolutely no sense to my brain.
Absolutely. And I feel like you said, sometimes you don't even notice when you're in it that you're being bullied, or that your colleagues are even being bullied until you look back. And it's kind of those little, you know, remarks and everything that you get, like, you know, every day for a year and then 2 years, and it builds up and it just completely breaks your confidence as a person and as a therapist.
Yeah. I was actually just saying this to my husband the other day. You know, at a particular time where I was in this particular role, I said to him, I was broken, you know, and I didn't know what to do. Sometimes I would go down and just sit at the beach and just be just a human shell because I had nothing left in me. And he was like, at that time, he was like, who are you? Like, you're changing. And I was going, no, I'm not. I'm still the same, but I feel different. But what's going on in this, you know? And it's so nice. And this is what I love about community. That's kind of when I started Beauti Industri, because it's so nice to now have this support network of people around you. And we see this often, you know, my boss said this, or my therapist did this, or this is what I'm seeing at another salon. What's the right way to navigate through this? And now that we've got this support community of people around us to help us do that, it's kind of like, okay, now I feel better about going back into that situation.
Yeah, it's definitely makes a huge impact who you surround yourself by. Do you feel like in 13 years that people are growing and there's not as much bullying, or do you find that it's still same but different?
That's a great question. I think we're being more progressive. Yes. How can I say this without offending anyone? I think let's just say the people who have been in the beauty industry for 40 plus years, they aren't going to change. You know, they have the mindset, they've grown up with the way that they've grown up with the world. And I'm not saying this is for everyone, you know, I don't want to just put a big blanket over everyone, but they're very set in their ways, you know. And in 2020, when we're coming onto technology, we're coming onto the world of influencers, we're coming onto online courses, those people don't want to change and mold and be progressive and come into this. And so they're going to stay stagnant, and that's fine. But two, they've got that stagnant mindset as well. And so when I talk to people in our community and they say to me, hey, Tamara, this happened at my work, and then I look at the business owner, I'm like, okay, she's stuck in a place, she can't move forward, you know. So they don't suck, they just stuck. But it's less bitchy and less competitive than it ever was, because the whole thing about Beauti Industri is that we want to retrain people to be a community, to have a positive culture on the industry, you know. I don't want people to think, oh, if I tell this business owner my secret, she's going to steal them all, or she's going to steal my clients, or whatever that looks like, you know. And I think if I and my team and the beauty industry just keeps on moving and keeps on adapting and being flexible, then the bitchiness will dissipate. But there's always one moldy peach in the fruit bowl that tries to make everyone else moldy.
Always in any industry.
Correct.
So tell us a bit more about your membership program. You know, who does it help? What do we get if we go inside? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so thank you so much, firstly, for allowing me to talk about it. I really appreciate that. When I first started the mentoring program, it was all about me, and I had a bit of an ego about myself, and I was like, well, I might as well just teach people how to do the things. And then all of a sudden I was flying across the country and I was doing business development and mentoring and da-da-da. And I came home and my husband said, Tamara, you're a coach. And I was like, no, I'm not. I've always gone into this saying I'm not a coach, I'm not a consultant, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, look what's happening, babe, you're a coach. So I reinvented our memberships this year to make it less of a focus on Tamara. And I've always tried to be that way, and I'm very, very upfront and honest. If I don't know the answer, I will never pretend that I do. And I want to put you in front of the expert, the specialist who qualifies in that area. And so that's what I've done. So our membership program is now called Beauti Academy.
Yep.
And it's basically like Netflix for the beauty industry. So you can jump in there and you learn about every question you've ever thought, how do I do insert problem, right?
Yeah.
So how do I use Canva to create a social media tile? How do I set up an online consultation platform? How do I set up an online retail store? How do I swipe up on Instagram and put a little GIF in my story with my brands, colors, fonts, all of that kind of stuff? So literally everything that business owners have ever wondered about their business, we've put in there. Yes, I do host a few different videos, but there's a lot of other experts in there. So it's for business owners who want to work on the operations of their business rather than doing the treatments all the time. But it gives you that flexibility because there's no lock-in contract. So if you get in there, you've got a free 14-day trial. And if you don't want to pay, just get out on day 14. If you do want to pay... Yeah, that's exactly right. But if you do want to pay, stay in $95 a month. If you're having a crappy month, not making your wages, your rent, etc., pop out, come back in when you do have money, you know. So I wanted it to be really flexible for our industry.
And I do like that because, like, for instance, obviously we're going through COVID-19 at the moment, not really something anyone planned or predicted. And now everybody is obviously, finances are really tight. We need to cut money where we can. So it is nice to know that you can leave when you need to.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And for me, I just got a bit sick of seeing coaches with programs with 3 zeros on the end of them, you know, $3,000, $5,000 and 6 weeks and lock in and you can't leave and blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, this is crazy. I thought, instead of just having one coach with one program with a one-dimensional view, why not have all the coaches, all the educators, all the experts in this one program, video format? So it's just easy. It just makes sense.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. It sounds like a little playground for beauty therapists and beauty owners.
It is a playground. I like that.
For us, that sounds good. So also you have been extremely generous and you have decided to do a giveaway. Would you like to explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for your lovely audience, more than happy to give away a 6-month subscription to Beauti Academy. So they're going to get the opportunity to jump in, watch videos, work on their business, develop themselves both personally and professionally. And happy to give that away for you.
That's so incredible. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
I'm excited to see who wins this one and, see how much value they get from your membership program, which I'm sure they'll get a lot. So that is something that we will advertise on Instagram. So feel free to check that out, guys. Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like listeners to know?
Oh gosh, is there anything else? I think probably the biggest question that I get asked is, like, how do you do what you're doing, you know? And as I mentioned, it has kind of been ingrained with me, but I've also got the push. I think with anything, and I know everybody says this, but it's so true, you've just got to start, you know, like you. I want to do a podcast. Find out, you know, you can Google anything, how to anything these days. And, you know, we've got all of these people like yourself who has a platform, who has a podcast, who has a YouTube channel. You know, if you want to do anything, just ask the right people, and people are always willing to give their time. And then if you do create that thing or program or podcast or whatever that is, maybe send that person who has helped you along the way a little thank you note and just say, you know, look, I'm here and I done it and I done it. That's not great English, is it? And I did it. And thanks so much, you know, because a thanks goes a long way as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I do think that people will definitely help if you're willing to reach out and ask the question.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you so much. It's been a delight.
It has. And I mean, I'm definitely someone that follows you. So, you know, I'll definitely see you in the group. And I'm excited for our giveaway. Yeah,
you'll have to let me know who wins. And I'll see them in the program.
I will. I'll definitely tag you in it. But thank you for joining me. And have a great day.
Yeah, it's been brilliant, Chelsea. Thank you so much.
No worries. Bye.
Bye.